Hey, thanks for checking out 21 Questions. It's a trivia podcast that I run. My name is Mike van Acker, and I'm glad you're here. Let's go. Question 1. Is the capital of New Zealand Auckland or Wellington? Capital of New Zealand is Wellington, although I've been to both, and Auckland kind of feels more like a capital. It's kind of a bigger city vibe, but it's windy Wellington. Question 2. Which 5-letter word, mostly used in rugby league and rugby union, is derived from an early English word meaning a disordered or confused situation involving a number of people and an informal jostle or crowd? That's a scrum. Question 3. Is the actor Macaulay Culkin, best known of course for playing Kevin McAllister in the Home Alone movies, closer to 40, 45 or 50 years old? It's the middle one. He's 45 right now. He'll turn 46 in August. Question 4 is always a true or false in this podcast. True or false? The first person to swim the English Channel without the use of artificial aids was Captain Matthew Webb in 1975. Now, bearing in mind that I write the true falses to be a toss of the coin, but I was thinking that you would work out that the year was a little bit of a giveaway. 1975, that seems far too recent. And in fact, it is. That one is false. It was Captain Matthew Webb. He did that in 1875. Question 5. Which 2016 musical film featured the Oscar-winning song City of Stars? City of Stars is the signature duet from La La Land. La La Land was, of course, the movie incorrectly announced as the winner of the Best Picture Oscar due to a mistake backstage. The real winner was Moonlighting. Do you remember that whole incident? Awful mistake, embarrassing for everybody. Question 6 is a spelling question. Now, we don't often do spelling questions on this podcast. Reason being, I know a lot of people listen on the bus going to work or on the train or in the car, sometimes when they're out for a walk, and they probably don't have a pen and paper handy, and spelling is easier when you can write it down and look at it. So it's a nice short word. Let's have a go at it. Spell ouzo, as in the aniseed-flavoured cultural symbol, if you will, of Greece. Spell ouzo. O-U-Z-O, and a big yasu to all my Greek friends. I said that with a terrible Australian accent, but I've got Greek mates go, hey, yasu! And it felt like cultural appropriation for me to do that. Anyway, question 7, what's starting with B, is the common name given to the disorder suffered by a diver who comes up to the surface too quickly? That would be the bends. Now, if you get the bends, is that the one where they put you in the hyperbaric chamber and you slowly come out of it that way? They either decompress you or recompress you. There's definitely compression involved. It's one of those things. Anyway, you know what I mean. The answer's the bends. After question 7, we do the first clues for the Who Am I for the EP. Today, it's a person. Who am I? I was born in 1947 in Hampton, Middlesex, the only child of a draftsman who worked for the Ministry of Aviation. As a teenager, I built my own guitar with my father using wood from an 18th century fireplace mantle, motorcycle valve springs and mother-of-pearl buttons. It took the two of us the best part of 2 years to build that guitar, but I still play it on stage today. Do you know who that is yet? Very famous guitarist. Question 8. Which cartoon characters' neighbours are Barney and Betty Rubble? That's Fred and Wilma, the Flintstones. Question 9. Which Swedish word, which actually translates to sandwich table, is another name for a type of buffet? That would be a smorgasbord, yeah. I do apologise to any Swedish people listening, and I might have Swedish people listening. I have people listening from all over the world, so possibly Swedish people are, as we speak, going, he can go shove it, and are switching off. Big hello to my mate Hans, who's a Swedish gentleman, and he may or may not be listening. He certainly asked me one time what the podcast is called and said he was going to listen. You know what I do? People that I know that tell me they listen to this podcast, I send them a little shout out and I wait to see if they get back to me, and then I know if they're really listening or not. I don't know why I told you that. Anyway, question 10. In music, how many strings do the majority of guitars have? By that I just mean the average guitar. Say you're at a party and some old hippie turns up and he's tunelessly banging away at blowing in the wind in the corner. How many strings is that guitar most likely to have? Well, actually, if it's like a lot of the hippies I know, it'll only have 5 strings, but it's supposed to have 6, and that's the point. Most guitars have 6. A bass guitar has 4, sometimes 5. Most guitars have 6, but sometimes 12. Good. Question 11 is another true or false. True or false, the Spanish Steps are a major tourist landmark in Madrid, in Spain. Is that true? Is that false? If you know, you know, right? You see what I did there? See, they're called the Spanish Steps because you would think, well, they're probably in Spain. Am I right? No, you're not. You're wrong. That's false. They're actually in Rome. Of course they are. The Spanish Steps are a tourist landmark in Rome. They were built between 723 and 726, which is a long time to build some steps, 3 years, so I imagine they're pretty fancy. I haven't actually been to Rome. I was supposed to go to Rome one time, and I was running out of money, and I found out that a cup of coffee back then was like $16 Australian. And I went, you know what? I don't think I'll bother with Rome. Anywho, question 12. What does the H stand for in the acronym ADHD? ADHD, that's the H stands for hyperactivity. ADHD, that's a sort of thing you might have that might make you just in the middle of a podcast bust out into a random story about not going to the Spanish Steps or Rome at all and not even think that's an odd thing to do. But we'll just move on. I haven't been diagnosed with anything, just so you know. Doesn't mean I don't have it, just means I haven't been diagnosed. Question 13. Which now 36-year-old singer was married at Madison Square Garden on July 3 of this year? That'd be Tay-Tay, Taylor Swift. She married Travis Kelce. I did not get an invite to the wedding, and I don't think I would have gone if I had been invited, because there's no way I'm going to America anytime soon. They will not like me going through the border. I will get in trouble. They will know some of the things I've said about them on radio and on podcasts, and they'll just, no, it's just a bad idea. I won't be doing that. And speaking of the American government, question 14. On May 25, 1961, which American president announced that the USA's goal was to place a man on the moon by the end of the decade? Which president basically announced the space race? That would be JFK. And 2 years later, he was dead. Not because of the space race, that's a whole other thing. I don't want to give you the wrong idea there. More clues, we'll just move on. More clues now for the Who Am I? Who am I? If you remember, it was the guy that built his own guitar, smart cookie, built it with his dad. Who am I? I studied physics at Imperial College London and started a PhD in astrophysics, but I didn't finish it, at least not straight away, because music got in the way. I co-founded one of the biggest rock bands in the world in 1970, playing guitar behind one of the greatest singers the world has ever known. Oh, I wonder who that could be. Do you know yet? You might not, is the truth of it. Like, I would think a lot of people would have worked it out from there, but at the same time, you might not be a person who loves music. Or you might be a young person. That's okay too. Young people, hello. Don't know what you're doing here, but you're welcome. Love that you're here. I'll occasionally start throwing in a young person question in deference to you. For now, though, question 15. Which 1975 Australian feature film was directed by Peter Weir and was based on a Joan Lindsay novel? It was set in 1900. Think disappearing schoolgirls. Does that help? How about disappearing schoolgirls on a picnic? Does that help? All right, disappearing schoolgirls on a picnic at Hanging Rock. Does that help? That's right. The answer is disappearing schoolgirls but no, it's not. It's Picnic at Hanging Rock. Have you seen that movie? I actually haven't. I've just seen little excerpts of it, but it looks really good. We should get together and watch Picnic at Hanging Rock sometime. Oh my God, we should watch it as part of the first annual 21 Questions Convention that we're holding in June of next year. I think in Timbuktu. Is that where we said? Let's do that. Picnic at Hanging Rock, night 2. Night 1 is karaoke night, if you remember. Night 2 can be Picnic at Hanging Rock and any other movies we adopt along the way. All right, it's coming together well. Question 16. In economic terms, what do the initials GDP stand for? That would be gross domestic product, as in, I imagine we will significantly add to the gross domestic product of Timbuktu when we all troop in there next year for the 21 Questions First Annual Convention, karaoke night 1, picnic at Hanging Rock night 2. Question 17. Are elephants omnivores or herbivores? Do they have elephants in Timbuktu? Look, it doesn't matter. I'm fixating now. Elephants are herbivores. Good-o. Question 18. Suspension and cantilever are both types of what structure? cantilever and suspension are types of bridges. A big hello to the bridge architects out there. Question 19 on this podcast is always a still alive or not so much. I give you a name and you decide for yourself if you think that person is still alive or not so much. Today, Kenny Rogers. Kenny Rogers, country singer. Think Islands in the Stream. Think Coward of the County. Think The Gambler. Hey, you gotta know when to hold 'em. Anyway, is Kenny Rogers still alive or not so much? Kenny Rogers, he folded them. He's dead. He died in 2020. He was 81 years old. All right, so here's a Kenny Rogers story that he does not actually appear in, but it's Kenny Rogers adjacent. In the late 80s, I was working at Annerley McDonalds. It was a Sunday night late, and this bus pulls up in the car park, and it's Kenny Rogers' tour bus because he'd been performing in Brisbane that night, right? And we don't know if Kenny was on the bus. We don't know. But they came in, and they bought a whole bunch of Cokes and Junior Burgers, which was the cheapest thing we sold. So I imagine Kenny was possibly paying the Macca's bill. Anyway, they ate, they left. We did not see Kenny. Gives you some idea how much happened in Brisbane in the late 80s. That's a story I tell. Yeah. Tell me a story of your boyhood. Well, let me tell you, one time, this country singer that no one cared much about didn't come into our restaurant. Ooh, fabulous. Anyway, Kenny Rogers, dead. Let's move on. Question 20 is always a music question. Which George had hits in the 2010s with Budapest and Shotgun? That would be George Ezra. And let me tell you, he's never come to any McDonald's that I've been in before or since. Final clues now for the Who Am I? If you remember, it's the musician. Who am I? In 2007, nearly 4 decades after I shelved it, I went back and finished that PhD. My thesis was on the motion of dust in the solar system. Exciting, I know. These days, I split my time between the stage and the stars. I've worked with NASA on the Pluto flyby, co-founded a global awareness day about asteroids, and once opened a Jubilee concert by playing the national anthem from the roof of Buckingham Palace. My band's lead singer passed away in the early 2000s, and we now play with Adam Lambert out the front. I am Brian May. Of course I am. Well, I'm not Brian May. If I was Brian May, I'd still have the same hairstyle I had in the 70s, but I'd be playing guitar like a demon. Anyway, good on you, Brian. Alrighty, that's the 21 questions you saw on the label that I promised you. Time now for the player questions. That's where you, the listener, if you want to, can send me a trivia question and I'll ask everyone else all about it. Last episode, Glennis sent in, where does the expression to spend a penny come from? And she said specifically, and it turns out what she's referring to was the very first modern public toilets. They were at the Crystal Palace exhibition in London in 1851, and it cost a penny to use them. You don't want to know what people did for public toilets prior to that. Let me tell you, I know, because I Googled it, and it's quite disgusting. You could Google it too if you want to, but I'm just going to say it's not terribly hygienic. And they absolutely didn't show that in Bridgerton. Anyway, thank you, Glennis. Great question. This episode, Karen has sent in, which country has a list of names that new parents must choose their new baby's name from? If the name they want is not on the list, they can ask for it to be approved, but there's no guarantee it will be. Which country is doing that? My first thought, Karen, is it Russia or North Korea or somewhere like that? But I will look into it. Thank you very much. That's a great question. People, that is 21 questions done and dusted, plus the player questions. Now, if you'd like to send me a trivia question for that part of the show, I'd love you to do that. There's 2 ways to get it to me via Facebook. 21 Questions by Trivia Tribe is the Facebook page, or you can email me direct, mike@triviatribe.com. We're very nearly up to the 80th episode. At the 100th, we'll do another player question episode, so it's time to start sending me some questions, people, for that one. This podcast comes out every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Thank you for listening. Thank you for playing along. I'd love to know how you went with that set of questions, but you won't tell me because no one ever does. They keep it a secret. Every now and then, someone comments on YouTube and go, oh, I did okay with that one, or get the occasional comment. Where are you, people? Spotify, all the data tells me there's lots of you. No one's sending me your score. Don't make me come over there. Anywho, I would love you to meet me back here in a couple of days. We'll have another crack at it. I've been Mike van Acker. I love you. Catch you next time.